Welcome, Facebook Live, to the Geaux Rouge Show. We're going to be starting momentarily. Let me see if I can find it on Talk 107.3. We've got a great episode lined up today. We've got leaders and leadership conversation coming your way shortly.
Hey, I got it right.
You are an amazing human being, Brian Haldane. This is episode 37.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and get Devin on the phone.
I love it. So our guests today, guys, as we wait, it will be Devin Lemoine, Lacy DiCharry, and Meredith Eicher.
Hey, this is Brian. We'll talk 173. How are you? Yeah, sure can. You ready to roll with Franz? All right, I'm going to drop you on hold. We're going to knock out the intro and then come in your way, okay? All right, hang tight. Let me get my stupid face off of here. There it is. All right, all right.
I don't think your face is stupid. I can't hear myself, by the way. That's okay. There we go. Oh, love the sound of my own voice. Such an egomaniac. Huge. His ego is huge.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
Stand by.
Hello, hello. Welcome to the Geaux Rouge Radio Show. You're listening on Facebook Live or on Talk 107.3. This is your host, Franz Borchardt, along with Brian Haldane on Master Controls. This is episode 37. Episode 37. And we're doing one of the things we do every so often is a segment called Leading BR, where we have leaders on to talk about how to become better leaders or about what they're doing in the community. So I have a master plan, Brian. The master plan is start a radio show and get a whole bunch of leadership coaches on the radio show so you can get, quote unquote, free leadership training. I like this master plan.
I like it.
So our guest this week, before we jump into that, will be Devin Lemoine from Success Labs, Lacy DiCharry from Ladydee Coaching and Consulting, and of course, Meredith Eicher from Meredith Eicher and Associates. It's going to be a good conversation. We're going to be talking about resilience and leadership, courage and vulnerability, and we're also going to be talking about value-based leadership. Before we jump into our conversation with our first guest, Devin Lemoine, it's important to tell you guys how we present the Geaux Rouge Show, and how that happens is we have support from some wonderful sponsors. Sullivan's Steakhouse, your neighborhood steak restaurant, Louisiana Tech Park, Breck Parks, the Smith Shanklin Sosa Law Firm, your go-to personal injury firm, and the Borchardt Law Firm, a premier criminal defense firm, Brian Haldane. One of the best, dare I say, one of the best criminal defense firms in the city of Baton Rouge, if not the state of Louisiana. One of the best. Not the best, one of the best.
Why not the best?
I'm trying to be humble. So, that being said, for more information about the Geaux Rouge Show, go to www.geauxrouge.com. And if you want to send us show topics, if there's something or someone out there that deserves to be a guest on the show, info@geauxrouge.com. That being said, let's jump on in. Time is money. Let's talk to Devin Lemoine from Success Labs. Hey, Devin, what's going on?
Hey, Franz. Just living the COVID life.
I love it. So, Devin and I go way back. Devin and I served on the Baton Rouge Gallery Board together, although I'm a horrible board member. She was, in fact, president of the board for a while. And you can't have, Devin, we can't have a conversation about leadership and coaching without having you on and Success Labs talking about resilience and leadership And so let's just jump into it.
Yeah.
So let's talk. What are your thoughts on resilience and leadership in this COVID world we're living in?
Yeah. So what's really interesting about what's going on right now is it's very representative of something I really started talking about quite a while back, maybe 2016, and started incorporating it into our leadership work. And that was the idea that we needed to start growing and building resilient leaders, teams, and organizations, because we are in a world, in a business world, I would describe as the VUCA world.
Okay.
And that acronym VUCA is not mine. It belongs to, it actually started and belongs to the military. It's created at U.S. Army War College. And it stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And, like any good acronym, they were looking, this was post-Cold War, and they were looking out and saying, boy, the way we serve and protect does not look like it used to. And we've got to change the way we do things in big ways. And, like any good military acronym, eventually business says, us too, we're in a VUCA world. And anyway, so that's really did a lot of research and started looking at, what does it look like to combat that, or to bump up against the VUCA world in your leadership. And that's all about being an agile and resilient leader. So that's kind of where, that's how I think about it, and how I hopefully teach leaders and emerging leaders and organizations to think about it. So how about you, Franz? Does your world seem VUCA right now?
So my
like
world is
else?
uber VUCA. But I like the topic of resilience, right?
Yes.
I read a book. It's not a recent book. It's been out for a minute, and I can't think of the name of the author, but it was called Grit, Grit, and I'm sure you've read it. But this idea of it's about just staying the course, being persistent, being resilient, and progress, right? Not perfection, progress. So my world right now is not too shabby, but I'm also Devin, I'm very much into believing that obstacles are there to be maneuvered around, to be conquered, and to help us grow. So I always view obstacles as opportunities. And now look, not to be flowery, I mean, that wasn't always the way I looked at things. Used to be I looked at obstacles as, oh, poop, I got to deal with this. I don't want to deal with this. So let's talk about VUCA, though. Let's talk about resilience. How does one develop that in their life?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. And building off something you just said, all the challenges related to kind of this VUCA event, right, a pandemic, clarity and creativity can come from it. So just what you said, it can be a great growth opportunity. So I absolutely agree with you. It can be a time of great clarity and creativity. So, how do you bump up against that as a leader, or with your team and as an organization? And kind of got it down to 4 P's, right?
Okay.
And one of those is perspective. And I think that's really important. And you just kind of talked about it. It's kind of, how do you see what's happening? Is it the most horrible thing in the world? And look, for some people it is. And, I don't want to not talk about the fact that this is devastating families and businesses, and we can't ignore that. And I certainly think that this particular situation has shined a light on some real disparities in our communities, in healthcare and equity and education and all those things. So I don't want to underestimate that, but if I switch it and kind of just look at it from a business perspective and a leadership perspective, and what can we do and learn? So one of those things is perspective, like you said, and it's really kind of reframing and having an ownership mindset. And this particular environment, because things are going to get more VUCA, not less VUCA. Like, we're not looking and saying, hey, let's look ahead and say, oh, things are going to calm down. The complexity of our world and our economy makes this something that is how we'll have to build our teams and organizations. So that mindset, taking care of ourselves, like, you can't bump up against all this stuff and not be mentally and physically as strong as you need to be. So I think that's important. Gratefulness is important, and also having a sense of curiosity about the things going on, because right now you're probably not, most organizations are not going to hit their goals, right? They have some big goals, maybe it's growth goals. They're not going to hit those. So it's really having a sense of curiosity about what's happening around us, and being willing to experiment and explore. But part of that, the big part of that, is keeping the right mindset and not letting what's happening impact your team or your organization to the point of negativity.
So change and adaptation, right?
Yes.
So, and look, I'm a big Ryan Holiday fan, so I've been gobbling up stoicism and obstacle is the way. I've been gobbling up ego is the enemy.
Mm-hmm. I've been seeing that.
I know. But adaptation, looking at a situation and saying, okay, there's things I can control in this situation, and there's things I can't control. And if I embrace the fact that there's certain things I can't control, I don't have to dwell on those things, right? Mm-hmm. I can focus on the things that I can have an effective adaptation on. And one of the things I think is interesting right now, and I was talking about it in the world of fundraising and charitable fundraising, is being mindful of what we can do right now that is adaptive, but yet not tone deaf as to our surroundings. So,
yeah,
man, I like these P's, man. You've gone through one P. There's a couple more P's, right?
Yeah. So the next one is purpose, and I think you just said it. Lots of things are changing, but I think this time presents an opportunity to have real clarity around why we do what we do. And so, to me, purpose and values and vision are really paramount during a time like this, because while your strategies may need to adjust and change, your overall path and purpose generally are kind of pointed in the same direction. So that strength of values and clarity of purpose, but flexibility in approach is everything. So it's been a real chance for organizations and leaders to demonstrate authentic values and get people focused on the big picture again. We can get really messed up with the little things, but, remembering the why and the purpose. But I think also moving forward, we've got to have a flexible strategy that's kind of informed by the dynamic market around us. And that means opportunities. I sent out a little a VUCA SWOT to a lot of my clients, and basically thinking right now, what have I figured out are my strengths during this time? And where have I seen that we're vulnerable because of all this? And I think that's where the clarity comes from, and hopefully gives us information that we need to move forward, maybe with some opportunities that weren't there before, but also with the opportunity to attack some risk and some gaps that we didn't recognize when times were good, right? Something like this really brings to your attention, like, I wasn't dealing with that, but boy, now it's in my face, because we're under so much, our businesses are under so much pressure, our leadership is under so much pressure.
So if you're just tuning in, we've got Devin Lemoine from Success Labs talking to us. We've got about 3 minutes with you, Devin. Keep going. I know you have two more P's.
So real quick, the two other things are people, and I think more than anything, as you guys probably have seen, we have leaned on the people in our lives. Many of us have talked to someone we haven't talked to in forever. We've reached out to old colleagues and coworkers, and we've used our people and our resources. So investment in relationships and partnerships are part of surviving in the VUCA world and economy. Communication and transparency have been huge. Diversity and inclusion, and team building and capacity. I mean, your team is important, and your relationships and partnerships are important. And we've seen that all over the places we've gotten through this time. And then finally, and one of my favorites is problem solving. Our ability to be creative and innovative during times of change and challenge are really the difference between success and no success. And so, being creative, innovative, bringing diverse ideas and perspectives and approaches, which we get from experiences and people who are different, think different than us. And then being able to make decisions and drive results even in that gray space. And that's hard. It's hard to make decisions in the gray with so many things that are unknown. So those are kind of the four things and that we focus on in developing resilient leaders. And you've got a couple of great guests coming on to talk about other things that are important during this time. Courage and vulnerability. I know Lacy's going to be talking about that, and Meredith with her roundtables, conversations and collaboration and accountability from each other. So I'll let your other two guests carry on the conversation, but hopefully this is a good start.
Well, before you head out, Devin, let's talk a little bit about you and Success Labs. If people want to connect with you guys and learn more about what you do day in and day out to help people become better versions of themselves, where are they going to go?
They're going to go to mysuccesslab.com. So mysuccesslab.com. And you can also follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
Awesome. Anything you want to close out with?
Congrats on your 3-year anniversary. And everybody, good luck, VUCA, world and economy. Everybody stay connected and stay collaborative and stay creative.
There's something.
So thanks, Franz. I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, Ryan.
No problem. Have a great day, Devin.
You too.
There is something empowering. There's something empowering about looking at the world and recognizing that it is in some ways volatile, in some ways, disruptive, chaotic. There's something empowering about that. And Devin mentioned my 3-year anniversary. My law firm turned 3 on August 1. And it's funny because the old timers, the seasoned gray-haired lawyers, they will tell you in my area of law that if you can make it 3 years, you're going to be okay. You're going to make it. You're going to be okay. And I just kind of I stopped keeping track of time. At first it was like, man, 3 years sounds like a long time. But yeah. So our next guest on our leadership roundup is the brilliant Lacy DiCharry. She's going to talk to us a little bit about courage and vulnerability. Lacy, you there?
I am. Hi.
How are you doing? Thank you for making some time for us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to get to talk about this.
So Lacy, for those who don't know, Lacy is a coach and does some work in the area of how would you phrase it, Lacy? Basically, you've been trained by Brene Brown. You went to the training, and you are one of the few, if only, certified coaches here to do her leadership program, correct?
That's correct. I'm the only one that lives in the state of Louisiana, right. But we have, certified coaches that can travel in as well.
Right. But you're here. You're here.
I'm here.
So what is that? Tell us a little bit about that program, because it's going to be a good segue into courage and vulnerability.
Yeah, awesome. So I love what Devin kicked it off with around, just the ambiguity, the uber buka that you mentioned. I love that term. And just, really not knowing the right answers, I think, is one of the biggest challenges. And so how do we go forth? How do we still participate? How do we still empower others to participate in an environment where we don't know all the right answers? And courage is the way to do that. You cannot get to courage without vulnerability, and that's the basis of the entire Dare to Lead program. It is based on the fact that, based on research, that courage is a skill set that can be developed, and there are 4 specific skills which we can talk about.
Right.
But really, that's the idea. And
so we've talked before. Lacy and I have had conversations before, guys, about how courage is the enemy antithesis of fear. And I don't know about you guys, but I am a human being that walks around with a ton of fear, a ton of just fear about what people think about me, what am I going to do in certain situations? And courage is like the way of addressing that, right?
I love that you brought that up. Fear, and that's what most people think. Fear is absolutely does play a role, but actually what we have found is that leaders who try to be courageous, they feel fear all the time, and yet they still take action.
Right. So how do they do that? How do you get to that point?
Yeah, so there's 4 skill sets. So vulnerability is the first one, and there's a lot involved with vulnerability. Really, it's recognizing shame, both in yourself, but also how does shame show up in your organization? And so some of the behaviors that we see if there is a shame culture in an organization, actually the defensiveness and the armor that we all put on when we experience shame because we're human, it's a human response. But we've got to be able to name it and recognize it. And so some things like back channeling, afraid to speak up, not living in alignment with values, resentment, which leads to turnover, gossip. And sometimes it's really harmful behaviors that we participate in because when we're in shame, we shame others. And so that actually erodes culture and trust in an organization. And so especially leaders, and now when I say leader, I don't mean positional leader as in at the top. I mean leaders to anybody that's charged with influencing other people to achieve a common goal.
Okay.
So that can be leadership at any level, whether, it's team leaders, managers, entry-level employees that are managing a team project. It's really important to develop those leadership skills across the board. And so if we are leading with shame or perfectionism, we are doing a disservice to our team. And actually, one of the research findings that is the number one indicator of productivity in teams is psychological safety.
Okay.
It's not software. It's not project management. It's not, building effective strategy. It's trust. What is what it is.
I was just about to ask, what is psychological safety? Is it just trust, or is it,
So,
did we
and there's a whole, that's the third skill set of courage, is being able to build trust. And there's a lot to that. There's 7 areas that we really focus on to build trust. Some of those is consistency, vault, meaning that you're not sharing information that's not yours to share, boundaries. But really building trust is around having that psychologically safe space. And so that means that people are able and willing to be vulnerable and be met with vulnerability. So they can share what they really think about a project idea. They can share what they think a timeline is going to be. They can talk about what their struggle is so that they can address the struggle instead of, hiding it and living with it. And that really takes a toll on our well-being as everyone, as a human.
So
yeah.
So I was going to say, Lacy, you are such an awesome person. We're going to have you for a second segment. We've got about a minute and a half left. Lacy, if people want to connect with you, where would they go?
Yeah, LacyDiCharry.com. There's a Dare to Lead tab if you want to check that out. And I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
And
same handle. And
for those who are wondering, DiCharry, DiCharry, not DiCharry, DiCharry. So look, in the 30 seconds we have left before the second segment, courage, vulnerability, you can develop these things in your life, right? These are not
Absolutely.
things that if you weren't born with them, you're never going to be able to have them, right?
Correct. These are skills that you can develop.
Okay. We're about to take our first break, so don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere, Lacy. We'll be right back in our second segment. For those listening, we've got Lacy DiCharry, and then we're going to ease into Meredith Eicher to talk about value-based leadership. You're listening to the Geaux Rouge Show. This is Franz Borchardt. We'll be right back. All right. Can Lacy still hear me? Okay.
I can still hear you.
So, Lacy, what we're going to do is we're going to introduce the second segment. So don't go anywhere. He's going to put you on hold, and then we'll pick up. For those who are listening, we're going to pick up, continue to talk about the stuff you want to talk about, obviously, and then I want to go into the Dare to Lead program to close out with. So,
okay.
So we have about 6 minutes left for you. So keep an eye on that, and then I'll prompt you with about 2 minutes left to talk about the Dare to Lead program. Okay.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
All right. You do you, boo-boo. Just put her on hold so I don't feel like she's listening to air. All right. So she can still hear everything. She just...
I don't know what she can hear right now because the board's been...
It's okay.
I don't know what she can hear right now because the board's been rewired.
Oh, okay.
A lot of technical stuff.
We got some people watching the show, man. I like it. It's like you get a whole bunch of great leaders on, and people like Beverly Brooks Thompson says, "Hey, I got to watch." Shout out to Byron. Byron Nichols. You're an amazing human being. I like you.
Yep, 37, say 1.
Vulnerability. Brene Brown. I read a lot of Brene Brown.
I think I saw her speak once.
You saw what?
I think I saw her speak once.
Yeah, she's pretty good. She's good stuff. I got to tell you, man, admitting that you are not in absolute positive control and that you don't know everything, again, empowering. We spend so much energy trying to act like we know what's going on and that we're the smartest and the best.
All right. This is exporting.
Sure. I don't know what that means.
It means rather than waiting till after the show is over with to put it in the system to make sure the right episode plays, I like to do it in the moment.
I like it. You're living in the present, in the moment.
Well, it's also guaranteeing that when this episode airs Saturday at noon, it'll be the right episode.
I like it when we air the right.
Yeah, well, it's better than... when I procrastinate, I tend to have this laundry list on Friday.
Maybe we should ask Lacy or Meredith about procrastination.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
You're important. Hey, you're worth it.
I
don't even know what that means.
I don't even know.
I don't even know what that means. You're worth it.
Whatever it was, it sounded so condescending.
You're worth it.
All right, stand by.
All right, welcome back to the Geaux Rouge Radio Show. If you're listening on Talk 107.3 or on Facebook Live, welcome back. Before we jump back into a conversation with Lacy DiCharry, let's thank our sponsors, Breck Parks, Louisiana Tech Park, Sullivan's Steakhouse, our neighborhood steak restaurant, the Smith Shanklin Sosa Law Firm, one of the premier civil personal injury firms in the state of Louisiana, and last but not least, of course, one of the best criminal defense law firms on the planet, in the universe, the Borkart Law Firm. That's my little lemonade stand. So we were chatting with Lacy DiCharry from Ladydee Coaching and Consulting. Lacy, how's it going?
It's great. How are you?
I'm just making it. Drinking lots of coffee. Thinking about courage and vulnerability. So I got to ask. I have to ask. What are the biggest obstacles to courage and vulnerability?
The biggest obstacle, I would say, is the willingness for people to engage.
Okay.
When we feel shame or fear, our natural response is to armor up.
Okay.
And we have a whole 16, daring versus armored leadership assessment that we go through. And what does daring leadership look like? What does it look like to armor up? But I think that's the biggest barrier, is the armor that we put on to make ourselves feel safe.
So speaking of daring to lead, that's a little program that you're teaching, right?
A little program around the world, yes.
Global. Lacy's global. So
yeah.
You specifically have one coming up in the near future, correct?
I do. So we the Brene Brown's team just launched in June our ability to conduct these virtually online so that we can ensure people have access no matter where they are.
Okay.
And so I'm so thankful. There's the COVID environment is definitely a double-edged sword, but this allows us to open up because previously we could only do this in person. And so now we're allowed to. And August 17th is our first kickoff for our virtual event. And then we've got another training running September 22nd if for people that can't quite get their schedules together for the August date.
So what would one expect to learn from this program?
You will learn the skill sets of courage. You will learn how to have these really difficult conversations when you'll be able to recognize how feelings and emotions feel in your body to know that, when you want to speak up, but you have chosen not to in the past, to be able to really choose your courage. You'll be able to identify your values, what those actually look like operationalized, either within yourself or within your team or organization. And what are the behaviors that support those values? What are the behaviors that are out of line with it? And how do we bring those alignment into your values? We'll talk a lot about trust, all 7 elements of the anatomy of trust, including boundaries. That's always a big thing. And then learning to rise is the 4th skill set, which is really around how do we get back up when we fall? Because if you are courageous, you will fall. It is how do we get back up and build that resilience once that happens?
Resilience and perseverance. I like it.
Absolutely.
So Lacy, I used to ask people the Tribe of Mentors question on the radio all the time. I used to ask people because I'm not original, and I love the question from the book where he would ask, what is your favorite failure? What is the failure that you learned from? What was the time you fell down and got your knees scraped up and got back up again, and it ultimately led you down a new path, down a new route? And that's just one. I am fascinated about the topic of how people are resilient and how they fail, because how you fail and how you respond to that failure and that perseverance and resilience, to me, helps not only motivate me. Because if you see something bad happen to someone and you're like, hey, that person lost their legs and they're still like doing like amazing, great things, and I've got 2 perfectly good legs and I don't want to walk a mile, it's things that are very introspective and reflective for me. So I like this. I like this little program that's coming. I say little program. I like the program. It's not a little program, Lacy. I apologize. I like the program that you have coming up. If I wanted to get more information about this, because I plan to sign up for it, where would I go?
You can check it out. Well, I believe you have a link up on your Facebook page.
I might have a link on my Facebook page.
You might. So people can support your show by clicking on your link if they want. Or you can just go to my website, LacyDiCharry.com, click the Dare to Lead link, and that'll lead you to all of our offerings.
And I will, and guys, for you, those who are listening, you can either scroll down and see the post, or I'll reshare it after today's episode. Lacy, what do you want to, we got a couple of minutes left. What do you want to kind of round up and talk about in our 2 minutes?
I think the thing that you mentioned briefly is that failure and how do we get back up? And the biggest mistakes that we've made, I think one of the things that actually I learned from my journey with this program, I actually wasn't even going to apply because I thought there's no way that they would take me. And at the last minute ditch effort, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try, and all they can do is tell me no, but if I don't try, then I won't even have a chance. And so that mindset has been, I think, one of my consistent failures in thinking that I wasn't good enough.
Right.
And really, imposter syndrome is what we name it. But a lot of us live in that, and we don't try. We don't try courageous things because we think that we will fail or we don't give ourselves a chance. And so through my journey of this whole process, I have learned that even if I feel like that, I can still take action otherwise.
Right.
And so if I have faith, and I will never know unless I get out there and try.
And look, the best part of that is, even if the answer is no, the victory is in the trying, right? I mean,
yeah.
But for you trying, you never would have gone and gotten this training from Brene. I mean, you were like in arm's length distance from Brene Brown. She taught this program for you, right?
Yeah, I was so lucky to sit like 10 feet away from her. She is incredible. She is so authentic, just a lesson in authenticity. And she really is about the work. It's not about her. It's about what can we do to help people. And so I just, my gosh, appreciated being in the presence of that for 3 days. It was amazing.
So if you're tuning in right now, we're talking to Lacy DiCharry from Ladydee Coaching and Consulting. And again, Lacy, in our remaining minute, where will they go to get in touch with you and to connect with you?
Yep. Again, LacyDiCharry.com. Click on the link for Dare to Lead, and you can hit us up on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
So if you're interested in the Dare to Lead program, I would encourage you strongly, not just because it helps me, and it does help me, I would encourage you strongly to go to the Geaux Rouge, Geaux, Geaux Rouge Facebook page, scroll down a little bit, and you'll see a link. Sign up that way. It is a great program, and I will be the one who tactfully says this, Lacy. It's very reasonably priced. So this is a great opportunity. I would highly recommend it. And look, it's virtual, so you can be safe. You can get some good material, learn some new stuff, network with some new people. Lacy DiCharry, thank you for coming on to the Geaux Rouge Show. You are always welcomed to come on whenever you would like.
Oh, thank you, Franz. I really appreciate it.
All right. So we've got one great leader left. You know, this has been like leadership foreplay. And what I think we're going to have to do, guys, is I can only give you an appetizer in an hour-long show. So what I think we're going to have to do is I'm going to have to talk to Devin, Lacy, and Meredith Eicher about doing a webinar or something to where I can give you a little bit more of a main course, a little bit more of an entree. This is like an amuse-bouche. This is like just teasing. And I don't want to be a tease. I want to give you the full Monty. I don't know where I'm going with this language. Anyways, Meredith, you there?
I am right here. I'm listening to you being a big tease.
I know. How are you doing, Meredith?
I'm doing awesome.
So for
I am just humbled to be in your company.
Thank you. So for those who are tuning in, I got Meredith Eicher from Meredith Eicher and Associates, LLC. Meredith's going to talk to us a little bit about a value-based leadership concept, as well as you've got an event coming up in August as well, right?
I do.
So let's jump on in. What is value-based leadership, Meredith?
So, you know, the first groundwork for value-based leadership is understanding that leadership is the ability to motivate, it's the ability to inspire, it's the ability to empower the energy, the talent of others in the pursuit of a worthwhile end.
Okay.
So, with that being said, value-based leadership is about the concept that values, knowing the value, your value as a CEO, the company's value, that drives the behaviors of an organization, of an individual, right?
Right.
And it leads to the alignment of your team and your company, and then hopefully to the desired outcome.
So how do you review, not to interrupt you, but how do you review whether or not your values, and I know this sounds like a stupid question, but I always wonder about it because I'm an introspective fella. How do you view or analyze whether or not your values are in tune or out of tune?
Well, I always, when I walk into work with the CEO and they have the values all over the wall, right, my immediate question is, tell me the 3 behaviors that align with that value.
Right.
And then I say, well, is this your company culture? Are these the behaviors that you're seeing within your company culture?
So there's something interesting about that, because sometimes we view our values as if they were reality, and what we think our values are and what we actually do doesn't always mesh, so to speak. So that's an interesting, I like the way you go through that, right? So not to interrupt you, I interrupting Meredith is interrupting genius here. So keep going. Keep playing the horn.
Well, and I'm bad about interrupting because I am so passionate about this concept.
Right. So
it's about living in integrity, Franz.
Right.
And this, people have a tremendous, all kinds of definitions about integrity. But the bottom line is, do your words and your actions align up? Because if they don't, that's when you're living, I'll just call it out of integrity, which is another word we could use.
Right.
And so the way you get to, the concepts within value-based leadership is first and foremost is that self-reflection.
Oh, self-reflection. Whoa. That's a scary thing, huh?
I know.
Like doing inventory of what's right and wrong with us, reflecting on. Yeah, are you suggesting, Meredith, that I'm supposed to feel and think about my feelings?
Well, I would suggest to you that I have 3 different groups of CEOs.
Right.
And that each one of them, it's about reflection. I mean, it's a confidential environment, of course.
Right.
But y'all don't like to do it. Women don't like to do it either, by the way.
I know.
I mean, that feeling word. But you do have to get in. You have to get in alignment with yourself.
Right.
What's important?
So it's interesting you say that, because one of the things I do, since we're having an honest conversation, Meredith, we're in a safe space. One of the things I do is I journal. Right. I take time every day to write down gratitudes. I write down what's going on, and I journal. And the value of writing stuff down is one thing, but the value of looking back and reviewing what I've written down is another layer. And it's interesting to me. That's reflection, right? Now, there's other ways I reflect in my life. I can sit in silence for 10 minutes and think about what happened over the course of the day. Or if I have an important decision to make, I will consult with people that are smarter than me and then reflect on it. But man, reflection is one of those things, to be candid, that it took me a long time to be comfortable with.
It is uncomfortable.
Right.
And being able to look back or forcing yourself to look back is the key.
Right.
And who holds you accountable to that?
That's an interesting question. I mean, that's generally in my life, it's me, right? I make it well, and I say that tongue in cheek because I make a decision that I want to be a healthy human being, right? And there are certain things I have to do on a daily basis to be a healthy human being. I have to not just live in real time. I have to be able to look back on what happens and say, okay, did I handle this correctly? Did I not handle this correctly? What can I do to better this situation? What is the learning? What is the learning opportunity here? And I like it that, and I don't think people realize this. So what you do for a living, helping people, coaching people, I don't think people realize that there are extremely successful people that have help. I think we just think that it just magically happens.
64% of CEOs have a coach.
I like it.
Listen to that number. And a coach is about asking the right questions. It's the art of the question to be the perturber in the self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
The second in value-based leadership is about balance and perspective. And that's about being able to listen, and learn from the perspective of others.
Meredith, you're asking me to be a listener? That's actually, I got to tell you, that is the thing I struggle with. So this is the gag, right? You get Meredith Eicher on the show so that she can do self-help coaching for you, Franz Borgart. Meredith, one of the things that I work extremely hard on is I am a good listener when it comes to jury selection. I'm very empathic when it comes to that kind of listening. If I could just listen to the rest of the world when I need to listen and shut my mouth and pay attention, I think I would be kicking some serious butt. I'm doing okay, but I think I would be on a next level of existence. So I got to ask, since it's free coaching right now, how do we become better listeners? How do we become better in tune with asking the right questions?
Well, it's listening for the need and the concern for the other human being.
Okay.
So when we go into a conversation, it's not about me.
Right.
It's about the other individual. And it's a second order listening. You're listening for what they're not telling you.
Right.
Right? And I know you, such a successful attorney, you know what I'm talking about here.
It's that layered micro listening and what they are and aren't saying. And yeah.
Exactly. But when we enter a conversation, we really want to be focused on the other individual. And then that's where the questions flow. An effective leader is a coach. They're asking the what question, the describe to me question. It's never yes, no.
So
because
you
get the answer you want if it's yes, no, correct?
Right.
Well, any intelligent person answers the right answer to the CEO, right?
So, and what's interesting to me is my experiences with coaches, they're also not telling the person necessarily what to do always. They're helping that person come to a decision. And Meredith, you may say, well, no, Franz, actually, I do sometimes tell people what to But there's a sticky note, going back, there's a sticky note I keep on my desk, and you would love it. The sticky note has big blue, thick Sharpie marker, and it says on the sticky note, it's not about you. and I walk around, it's like that ancient Roman, thou art mortal, thou art mortal, thou art mortal. I have to constantly remind myself it's not about you. And look, Meredith, I'm an egotistical human being. It's often about me. So,
well, we're all ego. I mean,
yeah.
Our ego got us to where we are today. Our ego serves us. It's when it's out of control that it doesn't serve us.
Right.
And so in the world of leadership, it's about emotional intelligence. It's about self-management and self-awareness.
Right.
And that's the balance.
Right. So the other thing I love about you and Lacy and Devin is I have learned over time that when I mentor or coach or help somebody else, yeah, I'm helping someone learn something, but I get a lot out of that. I feel like selfishly I'm learning more than I'm giving, and maybe it's the other way around. The more I give, the more I receive. But I can only imagine what it feels like from your perspective to be doing what you're doing for a living and getting, because I assume, Meredith, that you have that feeling too. I assume that when you're helping somebody, there's a reward, not in the monetary amount. I mean, there is a monetary amount of it, but there is that reward of I am helping someone become a better person, a better version of themselves. And then you also grow from that as well, right?
Well, absolutely. I had someone in this morning. It's a one-to-one conversation, and she is a CFO at a local company, and she said, the biggest shift I have made is the biggest transformation I have seen over the last year has been I'm not quick to react. I mean, she starts describing communication and different maneuvers she makes and how she has managed herself as opposed to the leader that she used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reward for us. When you hear those words, that the biggest change I see is,
right.
Or this is what I'm doing differently. When you hear that, you know you're having an impact.
Right. It's that it's that aha moment for the person you're coaching where they get it, and then you see that they're getting it, and then you are having an impact.
And at that point, you see that they're beginning to have, and it's the third concept of value-based leadership. They begin to have a belief in themselves, and what that means is that they're going to lead with their strengths, and hopefully they'll hire to their not greatest attributes or their weakness.
Right.
Although I'm not crazy about the word weakness. It's what they're not the best at. The best leaders hire people around them that pick up where they're not the best. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. So look, Meredith, we got 2 minutes. This has been a great appetizer. We got 2 minutes. I want to hear about your August 20th event and how people can connect with you and to the event.
Thank you. I'm hosting an event that shows what I'm all about. It is about peer roundtables and having an expert speaker and seeing what coaching and doing decision-making process is all about. It's Thursday, August 20th at the City Club on the second floor, and we are limiting seating, obviously, because of our environment of COVID. So to register, you go to mereditheicher.com and sign up, and I'll be in touch with you. It is no charge for the event. It is an opportunity to see what peer advisory group looks like, what a round table looks like, and experience that concept.
Awesome.
So I'm excited.
Free. You need it if you're listening. So I connected with Meredith through Beverly Brooks Thompson, and she let me tell you, if Beverly Brooks Thompson vouches for you, you've delivered 100 times fold, Meredith. So look, Meredith Eicher, thank you for joining us. We will definitely have you back on, and keep doing what you're doing. I love what you're doing for a living. I'm envious of what you do for a living. I do a microcosmic very small version of what you do when I mentor people, other baby lawyers. But I love what you're doing. So please keep it up. And definitely, guys, check out Meredith's event on August 20th. Have a great day, Meredith.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye-bye.
So that's about it for this episode of the Geaux Rouge Show. Oh, leadership, leading BR. We've had Devin, Lacy, and Meredith, all small appetizers. I'm going to get them on the show. I'm going to get them back together, the band back together to do maybe a webinar or something where we can have more time with them. You've been listening to the sweet sounds of Franz Borchardt. I love hosting this show. I got an hour of free coaching just now. That just happened. So more information on the Geaux Rouge Show, www.geauxrouge.com, or if you want to email us, info@geauxrouge.com. Thank you to Brian Haldane, Franz Borchardt. Have a great week.
All right, we're clear.
All right.
You got an hour of free coaching, and you followed it by saying you've been listening to the sweet sounds of Franz Borchardt.
Oh, I'm no more humble.
Did any of it take?
It didn't. Hey, I said one of the best. I'm growing as a human being.
Yeah.
All right. That was fun. I like those people.
Talk 107.3.
Who was it?
Nobody.
Okay. Let's sit here for a second. I'm going to collect myself. Oh, man. I want to be a coach for a living. I think I'd be a good coach. Certainly humble.
Oh, clearly.
Certainly got modesty.
Did you want to sign off on Facebook?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know we were still recording.
Yeah.
I was just talking about how humble I'm not and modesty. No, I really do wish I could do that for a living. I love helping people through being a lawyer. I love doing the radio show, but man, coaching, what Lacy, Devin, and Meredith do, I am truly, that would be the dream job for me. So anyways, that's about it, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Definitely connect with Lacy, Devin, and Meredith. And that's it for this week.